In my years of observing the world and its people, I've come to understand a profound truth. Intelligence isn't merely about knowledge or cleverness, it's about how we live, how we treat others, and how we grow from our experiences. Yet, there are unmistakable signs that reveal a person caught in the traps of foolishness, or what some might call stupidity. Now, before you laugh this off or take offense, let me explain why this conversation matters. Recognizing these signs isn't about judging others. No, it's a chance to reflect on ourselves, to steer clear of these missteps, and perhaps to guide others who might be unaware of their folly. Let us explore these 7 signs, not with condemnation, but with the wisdom to understand and the grace to grow. Firstly, the closed mind, a fortress built brick by brick with fear, pride, and stubbornness. You've surely encountered such people. They refuse to entertain new ideas, even when undeniable truths stand before them. A closed mind often masquerades as confidence, but let me tell you, true confidence comes from understanding that you don't know everything. I once met someone who was absolutely certain that the moon landing was a hoax. Despite being shown countless pieces of evidence, from detailed scientific explanations to footage of the astronauts themselves, they refused to budge. Why? Because admitting they were wrong would have meant questioning years of firmly held beliefs, and that level of self-reflection felt too unsettling to face. But this goes beyond just rejecting evidence. A closed mind rejects growth. Imagine if the great inventors, artists, or scientists had shut themselves off from new ideas. Would we have electricity, airplanes, or even the internet? Progress and innovation require an open heart and mind, and so does meaningful connection with others. The truly wise aren't afraid to admit, "I was mistaken." They embrace new truths and actively seek them out, unafraid of what they might uncover. The second sign, the allure of pointing fingers. It's so much easier than looking in the mirror. The foolish person is a master of excuses. To them, nothing is ever their fault. Missed a deadline? The system failed me. Lost a friendship? They were too sensitive. But deep down, we know the truth, don't we? Let me share a story. There was a young musician who dreamed of composing symphonies that would captivate the world. Yet every time he fell short, he found someone or something to blame. The piano keys were stiff. The acoustics were bad. Even the birds outside became his scapegoat. But one day, he decided to record himself playing. When he listened back, he realized the mistakes were his own. That moment of accountability was transformative. He practiced more deliberately, learned from his missteps, and eventually became a celebrated composer. Blaming others acts as a shield, a way to avoid self-reflection. But it's also a cage, locking the foolish person into a cycle of stagnation. Taking responsibility, though it can feel heavy at first, is what liberates us. It opens doors to self-improvement, trust, and respect. Have you ever encountered someone who insists on being the smartest person in the room? That, my dear friends, is the third sign of foolishness. Arrogance is often just a mask for insecurity. A truly intelligent person listens more than they speak. Here's a proverb worth pondering. The empty vessel makes the loudest noise. Reflect on that the next time you witness someone boasting endlessly about their achievements. Are they wise, or are they simply overcompensating? I met a young entrepreneur who had just started his business. He refused to take advice, dismissing the wisdom of those who had walked the same path before him. "I know what I'm doing," he declared. But his arrogance blinded him to potential pitfalls, and he faced unnecessary failures. Years later, he returned, humbled by experience, and said, "I wish I had listened back then." Humility is not about diminishing yourself. It's about valuing others' perspectives and recognizing that there's always more to learn. Arrogance, on the other hand, slams the door on growth and connection, leaving the foolish person isolated, even in a crowd. The fourth sign. This one strikes at the very core of humanity. A foolish person often cannot see beyond their own perspective. They struggle, or outright fail, to step into another's shoes and feel what others feel. And oh, what a cold and lonely existence that must be. Empathy, you see, is the bridge that connects souls. Without it, we're left isolated, unable to truly understand or connect with those around us. The foolish dismiss emotions as weakness. They mock, belittle, and harm, often without even realizing the impact of their actions. There was a man named Victor who worked in a bustling office. He often dismissed his team's struggles, brushing off their concerns as trivial. One day, Victor found himself in a similar situation, overwhelmed, unacknowledged, and seeking understanding. To his surprise, the same team he had once belittled showed him compassion and kindness. He later admitted, "I never realized how dismissive I had been until I experienced it myself." Empathy doesn't just soften us, it strengthens us. It equips us to navigate life's complexities with grace, understanding, and connection. Without it, we remain blind, not just to the needs of others, but also to the richness of our own humanity. The fifth sign, the comfort zone, a warm but stifling prison. A foolish person clings to it like a child afraid of the dark, unwilling to let go of the familiar even when it no longer serves them. But life, my dear friends, is like a river. It flows, bends, and changes. The wise embrace this, while the foolish resist, desperately trying to hold water in their hands. You've heard the saying, haven't you? The only constant in life is change. Let me tell you a story. There was once a shopkeeper who ran a small business in a bustling town. As the years passed, new technology and online marketplaces began transforming how people shopped. Despite the shifts, the shopkeeper refused to adapt, stubbornly sticking to his old methods. Customers dwindled, and his business began to falter. It wasn't until his daughter introduced an online platform and new marketing techniques that the shop regained its success. The shopkeeper, humbled by the experience, admitted, "I was afraid of change, but it turns out change saved us." This lesson extends far beyond business. It applies to relationships, careers, and even the beliefs we hold about ourselves. Adaptation is the key to thriving, while resisting change only leads to stagnation. Yes, the unknown can feel daunting, but it's in the unknown where growth and opportunity reside. The sixth sign, have you ever truly learned something new while speaking? Likely not, because wisdom doesn't flow from our own words, it comes from listening. The foolish, however, adore the sound of their own voice. They interrupt, dominate conversations, and rarely pause to truly hear what others have to say. I once knew a shop owner who struggled to retain customers. He had a habit of speaking over them, rattling off what he thought they needed before they even finished explaining their concerns. Time and again, they left dissatisfied. One day, after a quiet nudge from a mentor, he began to listen more than he spoke. Slowly but surely, his fortunes changed. He later confided in me, "I learned more about my customers in a week of listening than in years of assuming I knew better." Listening, you see, isn't passive. It's a deliberate act of valuing another's perspective. It's in the quiet moments of listening that seeds of understanding and wisdom are sown. But talking without listening? That's like scattering seeds into the wind. Nothing takes root and nothing grows. The seventh sign. A trait that holds perhaps the greatest weight, the inability to learn from mistakes. Life, after all, is a constant teacher, offering lessons through our successes and failures. But the foolish person, instead of seeing mistakes as opportunities for growth, repeats them over and over, trapped in a loop of stagnation. They blame circumstances, ignore feedback, and resist change, all while missing the valuable wisdom hidden within their experiences. I once knew a craftsman who struggled to perfect his work. Instead of reflecting on his errors and improving, he stubbornly continued making the same flawed designs, convinced that the problem lay in everything but his approach. It wasn't until he paused, analyzed his process, and sought guidance that his craftsmanship flourished. This trait is a reminder that mistakes are not failures, they are stepping stones, guiding us toward mastery. And so, my friends, we've uncovered the 7 signs of foolishness: the closed mind that resists growth, the habit of constant blaming, the arrogance that stifles humility, the lack of empathy that isolates the heart, the fear of change that hinders progress, the tendency to talk more than listen, and finally, the inability to learn from mistakes. But before we part ways, let me leave you with a gentle reminder. We have all been foolish at times. I am no exception. What matters is not where we begin, but the direction we choose to take. Wisdom is not a destination, but a lifelong journey, a path paved by our willingness to grow and overcome these signs. Each trait, when addressed, transforms into a stepping stone toward a richer, more meaningful life. As we close this chapter, I invite you to reflect. Which of these signs do you recognize in yourself? More importantly, how will you rise above them? Remember, the journey toward wisdom is open to all who dare to take the first step. Thank you for walking alongside me on this path. May your journey be guided by growth, deep understanding, and the courage to embrace the wisdom within you.